What's up guys, LP Squirtle King here, back with more Pokemon Leaf Green. In the last episode, we went through part of Mountain Moon, and in this episode, we're about to prove my nerdiness even further. That's why we are here in Viridian Forest. In this episode, we're going to be talking about effort values. Effort values are pretty much, well, they're kind of important to Pokemon. Effort values are have to do with base stats. Now, showing something here, as you can see, Pikachu has base stats. Just look at them there. HP 37, attack 20, defense 15, special attack 23, special defense 22, and speed 29. It has sassy nature, which I know raises special defense. I'm not sure what else it does. I think it lowers defense. I'm not entirely sure about that. I should remember because we went over that a few episodes ago. But anyways, base stats are all go up at the same rate, always, for every Pokemon. Well, for each Pokemon, depending on what their base stats are. Every Pokemon is given a specific base stat that is what their stats would be if they had no effort values or individual values once they were at level 50. No, level 100, I believe. Or it's level 50. It's one of the two. But effort values and individual values are what make every single Pokemon different. Every Pokemon has their own individual value, which is a completely random number generated between I think 1 and 7. The individual value is a large determining factor in the difference of a Pokemon. Even if two Pikachu, if we were to have two of them and they both had a sassy nature, if the individual values of one Pikachu were different from another, they would have very different stats. And not all Pokemon have the same exact number of individual values. It's completely randomized. You could end up catching a Pokemon, in theory, that has all individual values with a number of 1, and you could also catch one that all has the number value of 7. The higher the number it is, the better your stats will be. I think it's 7. It might actually be 14. I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure it's a multiple of 7 that the maximum can be. But anyways, sometimes a Pokemon can have terrible individual values, and sometimes they can have fantastic individual values. Individual values are not something that can be figured out, or at least not in Fire Leaf Green. In Emerald, there was one character that kind of gave you a guess on what your individual values could be, or at least if they were any good. That was stationed in the Battle Frontier section of Pokemon Emerald. There was a man you could show your Pokemon to, and he would tell you whether or not your Pokemon had really good individual values, or are at different levels, and then he'd tell you which one was the highest. Individual values are not something that can be affected. However, effort values can be. You can actually change those to however you want them to be. Effort values are also a hidden integer in determining the base stats of a Pokemon. Effort values, or whenever you battle a Pokemon, they will yield an effort value, or an effort point. Anywhere between 1 and 3 effort points can be given depending on how strong the Pokemon is. In the case of what we're going to be finding here, Weedle and Caterpie, Caterpie yields 1 effort point in the HP stat if it is killed, and Weedle yields speed. Now, usually the Pokemon yields a stat based on what their best stat is. It's really not the case here in Weedle and like Weedle, because his best stat I think is physical attack. But it's most of the time the Pokemon will yield a base stat based on what their best stat is. Because Pikachu, for instance, and Pikachu's learning Double Team right here. Good thing I'm catching that on screen. I actually am going to teach it Double Team over Thunder Wave. But anyways, because we don't really need Thunder Wave, to be honest. Because Thunder Shock has a pretty good chance of paralysis. But anyways, Pikachu yields a stat effort point if it is defeated. Now, a Pokemon that is leveled up, or evolved, will usually yield more. Like, for instance, Pikachu, I think, when it evolves into Raichu, if Raichu is defeated, it will yield, I think, actually 3 effort points, because they have a baby Pokemon in the family, baby Pokemon, which is Pichu, Magby, Smoochum, and Cleffa, and then there's others. There's others as well. But those are just some examples. Baby Pokemon only evolved through happiness, I think, and they were actually pre-evolved Pokemon to Pokemon that were introduced in older generations. But those, they yield 1 effort point, because every Pokemon yields effort points. But because those kind of throw off the system, so Pikachu also only yields 1 effort value point, if I'm not mistaken. However, its fully evolved form, because it is the 3rd member of the generation, yields 3. and I'm pretty sure it's all speed that Raichu gives. I'm not entirely sure. This is just an example. Effort values how am I trying to put this? Effort points can be kind of utilized to train your Pokemon the way you want them to. And I know we're just standing around. I guess I might as well just walk around a little bit and fight things. But they can be kind of customized to make your Pokemon strong in a specific stat. Because effort points can be maximized up to 255 effort points per Pokemon, which means you can really just blow away Pikachu's speed stat. Like, let's say if we were to only fight Weedle here, like for hours and hours and hours, and maximize its speed effort value, it would be really, really fast, because just 4 effort points will basically raise the base stat by 1 point. So that will mean that when it levels up, it will gain a lot more stats upon leveling up than if it were to level up normally, like let's say if we were to give it a rare candy. So 255 is the maximum that can be got for each stat. However, 510 is the maximum you can get total. So if you were to just harvest and only work on 2 stats, you could not raise the effort values of any of your other stats. You just have to hope that those stats have good individual values, IVs, or they aren't really just needed. Like, let's say, like for Pikachu, we wouldn't work on its special defense at all, because special defense just really doesn't apply, because who attacks electric types with special attacks? Really, all you do is attack them with physical attacks, because all their defenses suck, except for ones that aren't pure electric types. But yeah, you can customize it. There are specific routes that will have different Pokemon. If you run away from a fight, you will not gain the effort points that you would have gained if you were to fight the Pokemon, thus, further customizing your options. There's other items that can be obtained starting here in Generation 3. For instance, a Macho Brace. I'm not sure if this is obtained in Leaf Green and Fire Red. I know it is in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, but if a Pokemon holds this Macho Brace, they have their effort value points that they gained doubled. So, like, taking out that Caterpie while holding a Macho Brace would have given 1 HP, or 2 HP effort points. The downside is it also lowers the speed of your Pokemon. I think it cuts it in half, actually. But going more on that, there's also berries that you get in this game. There's a lot to talk about with effort values, and I'm just proving that I'm such a nerd because I'm doing this all off of memory. Oh wait, there is one other thing. There's also this thing called Pokerus, also known as the Pokemon virus. Pokerus looks if you go into your Pokemon summary screen, it looks like a status condition. When you look in your Pokemon summary screen, where you see where it says your Pokemon's poisoned, sleeping, or asleep, fainted, or any of that stuff, where it says that out of battle, if you look in there, or actually I think this is also in battle, but like if they don't have a status condition, you'll see in the place, instead of it saying fainted or something, it'll be like a purple little insignia, and it will say PKRS, which is Pokerus. Pokerus is like always having a Macho Brace without the speed lowered. It's something that's really convenient and was probably one of the coolest things ever. Unfortunately, the odds of getting Pokerus are as high as the odds of finding a shiny. However, the Pokerus odds are the same odds as a shiny, but for every save file, while the odds of finding a shiny are determined on how many Pokemon you encounter. So you find a shiny like 1 in every 9,000 encounters, while Pokerus is only given 1 in every 9,000 save files. Now, believe it or not, I am not lying to you, but I have actually gotten Pokerus in one of my save files on my Pokemon Sapphire. And it was actually when I got the game in the mail, first file I had it on, I was only up to the 3rd gym, I had Pokerus on my Pokemon, and I am amazed by it. I would actually love to get my Game Boy Advance player or buy one so I could show you guys this, because I'm not lying here, I'm totally telling the truth. I have gotten Pokerus. I don't know anyone else who ever has. I've never even heard of anyone else who has. It's so rare. But if you do get it, it's really just fantastic. However, Pokerus is not permanent, unless you're smart about it. Pokerus, as a condition, it only lasts for 1 day. When you have the clock running, at least I know this is the case in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, because they have clock-based events. I don't know how it works in Leaf Green and Fire Red, or if you can get Pokerus at all in this game. But in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, when you get Pokerus, or in games that have clock-based events, as soon as midnight hits on the clock, Pokerus goes away for all Pokemon in your party. When they're in your box, they don't go away. So that's a way of maintaining Pokerus when you have it. Pokerus is extremely useful for effort value training. If you have also if you have Pokerus and a Macho Brace, your effort points will quadruple when gotten. So like let's say my Pikachu was holding a Macho Brace and it had Pokerus, it would get 4 effort value points, basically the equivalent of a vitamin from just killing this Caterpie. Now the funny thing is, vitamins cost 9,800 Poké Dollars and cannot be gotten until way later in this game. But we'll be getting more of those later. There's other things to talk about. Still trying to remember. I want to hit all of this, and I know it's kind of sporadic because all we're doing is fighting little Pokemon in this, like, Pokemon here in Viridian Forest, which is kind of a useless waste of time, but it has to be done, okay? I just have to get this effort value stuff out of the way because it's kind of boring. Let me see. More to talk about. And look at Pikachu. Let's see if we can get Pikachu level 16 just off of... Actually, no. He's only gotten like half a level in this entire video. That would not be a good idea. Let me see what else to talk about in terms of effort values. Effort values were a lot different in Generation 1 and Generation 2 than they are in Generation 3. They were completely changed. It's a little different because no one really ever effort value trained in those two games. You do it in Generation 3 onward, but not in... but you don't really do it at all in Generation 1 and 2. They were determined a lot differently, so they're kind of ignored. But in this game, that's not the case. You don't want to ignore them, at least when you're competitive battling or when you're building teams, because they do make a huge difference because effort values can also be used to counter nature. Like if you get a nature that raises a stat that you really want to have raised, but it lowers a stat you also want, to be really strong. Like let's say you got a normal type. Let's go, like, I'm going to say a random one here. How about, no, let's go fighting type. Let's say Primeape. You want its physical attack stat even higher, or you want its speed even higher, sorry, and it's a timid nature. That lowers physical attack. And you don't want Primeape's physical attack to be lowered because it's a fighting type and it needs to excel in that. So if you were to get the timid nature with it, instead of, just freaking out, what you could do is you could actually EV train its attack stat, not only countering the nature, but actually still making it stronger because of how high you can make a stat based off of effort values, because they can make a gigantic difference in your Pokemon. In fact, one Pokemon in particular here, Sugar Ray, its nature, as far as I know right now, is actually not good, because it really lowers special defense. In Sugar Ray's case, I actually am going to put him on hold for a while. There's going to be a point in this game where I just stop using him for a little while. And the reason being is because I want to keep him at a low level so I can start EV training with him. Because there will come a point in time where I can use that to my advantage. And I'm going to EV train to raise his special defense like a beast. Because we really want to do that. Now you're probably thinking it's pointless because, he'll get wasted by special attacks anyway. I do have a very good reason for doing it. And I will be doing it later in this game. Later on, mostly off screen. I'm not going to be showing all that, but I am going to like document my progress on screen, like how far he's gotten into EV training. I want to stop because once they hit that 510 points, you can't EV train them anymore. It's totally useless and they've maxed out. How do you know if the Pokemon's maxed out? Well, again, this is another thing I don't know in Fire Red, Leaf Green if this is the case, but in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, there was this lady in Slateport City that you could talk to, and if you talked to her, she would give your Pokemon a ribbon if it had maxed out its effort values. Because effort values, they were a lot more pronounced in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Not as much in Fire Red, Leaf Green, unfortunately. They didn't hold true to that all the way through Generation 3, but they've really kind of become a big deal in Pokemon, so that's why I'm talking about them now. I'm probably just going to list this episode as optional because it really is optional. You don't have to watch it. So, in terms of continuity, I'm just saying you might as well skip this episode, but if you care, I hope you enjoyed my nerdiness. Anyways, with that, we are done here. This is Uppy Squirtle King. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, like my Facebook page, links in the description below. I will see you guys next time where we will take on the rest of Mount Moon.